On this week's show, J.J. Abrams goes to Marvel, Transformers Ghostbusters, and Batman 1989 hits an anniversary. It's Previews World Weekly, and it's happening right now. What's up, Previews World? It's Wednesday. It's New Comic Book Day, which means it's time for Previews World Weekly. I am one of your hosts, Troy Jeffrey Allen.
And I'm Thea, and we're here every week to remind you guys to stop at a comic shop and get involved in the world of comics. And we also want to remind you, if you're enjoying this show, to hit us up on social media to keep all the nerd news coming.
So we've been both kind of like holding off on seeing Godzilla.
Yeah.
Not deliberately, it's just kind of like...
happened, yeah.
But we have kind of, I won't say conflicting views, because like he made some really great points.
Yeah.
But I think I liked it more than you did.
Yes, I think you did.
So
ultimately.
what was your take on Godzilla?
So great monster moments.
Yeah.
And like visually gorgeous,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Really
yeah.
loved the whole Clash of the Titans.
You're right, yeah.
But the humanity stuff, as usual, lacking.
Yeah.
And just felt like, I mentioned to you to go look at some Command and Conquer cutscenes.
Right, yeah.
And that was basically this entire movie for me. It was just a lot of random military exposition and why everybody's just saying what's going on instead of letting it happen kind of thing. So.
No, I get that. Like I think the Command and Conquer cutscenes kind of, I was willing to just kind of be like, okay, it was cool, and then walk away from it. But then I was like, damn it, she's right. I saw people complaining about the human interactions and stuff like that. I mean, I'll put it like this: like I appreciated that, like they got actors who are I won't say one thing really well, but they're known for certain things.
Sure.
And so they did that one thing really well.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like just worked on that level for me.
Oh.
Also, I like to, you're wrong.
Okay.
But, I mean, like...
You're allowed.
I mean, but at the same time, like, I get it. Like, it's not like a very character-driven movie.
Yeah.
Like, it has a character subplot that's character-driven, but it's just, it's like, missing families. They did the same thing in War of the Worlds and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a tropey kind of thing. And there were a lot of really tropey characters.
Yeah.
Like, I liked Millie Bobby Brown's character the most.
Yeah, yeah.
And I felt like that had much more of an actual character arc and story. But both of her parents, I was just like...
See, I liked, I always get her last name wrong, Vera Farmiga, the woman from The Conjuring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, should we do spoilers? Like,
No,
are we far?
no,
Okay, we
I
won't
don't
spoil
know.
it. But
We
like,
won't
her
spoil it.
motivation for doing what she does in the film, I wasn't expecting it. I kind of liked it. Like, it had this kind of like, environmentalist angle to it that I thought was interesting.
But it was also like everything felt very conflicting and halfway for me.
Yeah, no, and I think you're 100% right about that. Like,
Whatever.
It was always kind of like meeting you halfway, though. So I get that. I totally understand.
Still a good monster movie though, so if you like those monsters,
Yeah.
go check it out.
It actually inspired me to go watch Shin Godzilla, so I'm going to
There
actually
you
watch
go.
it this weekend because I've
Nice.
heard good things about it. And I've heard that
Yes.
the character stuff is actually really good in that. So,
Likewise.
also just on the movie front, a major milestone happened this weekend.
It's true.
June 23rd, Batman 1989 hit its anniversary, and it's the 30th anniversary. And like I thought it was interesting because like that movie was kind of like a major milestone for
sure.
a lot of reasons.
Absolutely.
I've heard a few people say that it was the thing that ushered in the modern comic era. I kind of feel like we're a little bit more removed from that than currently, but I understand why people say that because
Yes.
prior to that it was just really Superman the movie.
Yep.
And then literally like a decade later was Batman 89. But I just kind of wanted to acknowledge that because
Absolutely.
I think that like
important.
it is. It's important. I think that like I remember specifically that summer. Well, first of all, it was a great summer. It was Ghostbusters 2. If you like Ghostbusters 2, I like Ghostbusters 2. It was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It was Back to the Future 2.
Such good stuff.
Right, and Batman 1989.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of like a great summer. But on top of that, like, I think that movie did a lot for comic books. Like in that point in
for sure.
time, like I remember specifically the Batman books being very hardcore, like just like unhinged, like just sort of like this is not appropriate for kids at all. Yeah. But also on top of that, just an interesting movie. Like I see some people saying it doesn't age well. I don't know when the last time you saw it was, but
Yeah, not recently for sure.
Yeah, right.
But I watch a lot of older movies anyway, and like 80s movies in general. I love 80s movies, so that sort of thing doesn't bother me.
No, and I get that. Like, I'm not. I kind of hate people who are like, "Oh, this is old," and it's
Yeah,
like,
well,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it came out 30 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
come on, man.
Just watch it like it came out 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think it was interesting because like The Dark Knight Returns, that came out several years prior. Tim Burton has been very open about like how that movie kind of like that book kind of gave him a window into how to depict Batman on screen. And I think that ultimately this film, the 1989 film, kind of opened the door up to like Batman no longer being the Adam West version.
Sure.
You know, which if you were a comic book fan, you already knew that.
Yes.
But to the larger culture, I mean, truthfully, if it wasn't for 1989, you wouldn't get like the Christopher Nolan movies and all the, you wouldn't get Batman the Animated Series.
That's right, exactly.
You know, so yeah, I just think it's a major milestone, and I definitely remember like that bat signal being everywhere that summer. Like you just could not escape it. So.
I was 2 years old, so.
Oh, well, there you go.
Don't remember that.
Thank God for home video. So, but I just want to acknowledge that. But anyway, we're here to talk about comics, not just comic book movies. So Anna-Mee is here, and she's going to show us what's hitting comic shops this week at your local store.
What's up, Previews World? Mia here, and I'm going to give you a look at some of the new titles in stores this week. Here's what's at comic shops for the week of June 26, 2019. And we're just getting started. The world of comics has even more to offer. So stop at a shop already, and you might just find your new favorite thing. See ya!
Thanks, Mia, and of course that's just a little bit of what's available. If you want to see a full rundown of what's out right now, head on over to previewsworld.com/new releases to see what we've got. What are you looking for?
Batman Damned #3 is out. It addresses or like kind of like approaches this concept of maybe Thomas Wayne had some infidelities, and like Bruce's like concept of his dad is maybe not everything that like he thought it was, which is kind of interesting.
A little more human.
Right, exactly. And also some really cool reimaginings of some of the characters. Like I think there's a bit with Enchantress where she's kind of like a street witch, like for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of supernatural characters kind of crisscross this particular story. And at the base of it is Batman and John Constantine teaming up to find the person that murdered the Joker. Right. So it's kind of like, and also the art's amazing.
Cool.
So yeah, definitely check out Batman Damned. It's out this week. What else are you looking forward to?
So I'm looking forward to Kanto, which we had a little video for somewhat recently. And this is a little mini-series of 6 issues, and this is about a little character named Kanto, and their people once had hearts, but now they have clocks.
Oh, okay, nice.
So they're now sort of mechanical critters, and a bunch of slavers come by and they damage a little tin girl's clock beyond repair, and Kanto is like, this is not cool. I gotta get up in arms. I gotta go fix this. My people need me. So he goes on an adventure to save the people he loves.
Okay, cool.
Stuff. Yeah, it's sort of it's an all ages book, so it's very cute.
Nice, good.
Right, and it's sort of a Wizard of Oz, Dante's Inferno kind of.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, which is like.
Yeah, I could get the Tin Man aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
like fantasy. I guess it's like a little steampunk in it. It seems like.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was very curious about that, and actually that description is actually really nice. Yeah. Also out this week, I was originally going to pick X-Men Grand Design, but shout out to X-Men Grand Design. But like, I noticed at the last minute, there's a book called Wolverine Exit Wounds, and it's Chris Claremont re-teaming up with like it's Chris Claremont, Sam Keith, and Larry Hama, who all have had like Wolverine runs that have like, just like cemented the character. Cool. And these are stories that have not been told before. So these are completely new stories, and as a curiosity, I'm willing to pick this up and check it out. Yeah. It's got Salvador Larroca on art, Sam Keith writes and draws one of them. He did the Max, of course. And Chris Claremont is X-Men. Like you can't even take that away from him. Right. Like there's no way you're gonna take that away from him. So yeah, definitely check out Wolverine Exit Wounds.
Cool.
In terms of other stuff out this week, what else can people look forward to?
I'm looking at Ghost Tree. This is a cool concept to me. There's this young guy named Brant who returns to his ancestral home in Japan to sort of seek refuge from the real world for a little while. He has a little bit of an unhappy life, and he finds this haunted tree and the departed souls that are drawn to it, including his grandfather. So he gets to sort of reconnect with his family history, and he's trying to sort of heal some personal wounds and stuff. And then, of course, somebody shows up to make everything terrible again. So somebody from his past shows up, and now he has to sort of deal with that. It's more of an emotional journey than like an adventure, which for me is not the usual. But this just, it looks beautiful, and I love the Japanese culture. I love Asian cultures in general. So the sort of modern, like this kid, his name is Brandt.
Right.
Real Japanese name, right?
Right.
But it's something you can sort of connect the two together and, get involved with. It's really neat.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, comics can do that. Like that's, we talk a lot about superhero stuff and like, like sci-fi and fantasy, but comics can do that too.
Just a little reality once
human drama. Yeah. Like I like that. Also out this week, this is a big ticket item for like people, is War of the Realms #6.
Yep.
We talked about this before. Malekith is coming for all 10 realms. He's finally made the mistake of coming to Earth, and it's just all-out war. Definitely keep an eye out on that. Like, it's the final issue. So if you've been following Jason Aaron's Thor run, you definitely want to pick this up.
Word.
What other big ticket items should people be looking out for?
Transformers and Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So this is really cool. Of course, this is the Ghost of Cybertron Part 1, and the Autobots have fled Cybertron and left it in the hands of the Decepticons. And years later, they pick up a distress signal from a mysterious planet called Earth. Such mystery, very Earth. Wow. And they're like, wow, this shouldn't exist, so they have to go and investigate. And Optimus Prime and his team, including brand new Autobot Ectotron, which is inevitable, right? Which I'm like all here for. Yes, absolutely make the Ecto a freaking transformer. Good. So they meet together and they meet the Ghostbusters and have to sort of solve some stuff.
Now the thing I like about this is like they did the big announcement. I guess it's definitely currently the Ghostbusters anniversary, and like they did the big announcement that they were doing an Ectotron toy. And I mean, like I know it's cheesy.
No, I love that. That makes me happy.
I like the tie-in. Like I think the tie-in's important, and like gets people to go to comic shops to find the backstory to this toy, you know. And I think it's a fun concept.
I still love also that all the '80s stuff is coming back again too.
Yeah.
Like even there's a game called Rocket League.
Right.
You know that game. So all the summer stuff for Rocket League is all '80s, and you get an Ecto and the.
Oh, you do. Nice.
Well, you can. I mean, you have to pay for all these things.
Right, of course. Right.
But you can get the Ecto, and you can get a one of the Back to the Future.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. No,
the
like
DeLorean.
It's becoming its own subgenre. Like
it's
just
really
80s.
Fun.
Like I feel like the way that people used to like, I think in the '90s, like the 1950s became like its own subgenre.
Yeah.
Like that's
retro.
kind of right. Yeah, that's what's happening now. This is the new retro. It's like the '80s stuff. So.
I love it.
So now we're gonna kick it over to the news. A ton of cool stuff happened this week in comics and some sad stuff, but we'll talk more about that later. I'm gonna kick it over to Thea, and she's gonna tell us everything that happened in the world of comics in the last 7 days. Check it out.
DC has announced that beginning in 2020, all of its publishing content will be organized and marketed under the DC brand, creating 3 age-specific labels: DC Kids, DC, and DC Black Label. These will absorb all of its existing imprints and focus DC's publishing content around characters and stories that evolve and mature along with the awareness and sensibilities of DC's readers. As a result of this new labeling strategy, DC will sunset the Vertigo publishing imprint at the end of the year. The new segmentation, featuring the new age rating system, will launch in January, and books currently being published under the recently launched DC Zoom and DC Ink imprints, which are focused on the middle grade and young adult segments, respectively, will be assigned to the DC Kids and DC labels depending on the content and intended audiences. DC will also continue to publish creator-owned projects and will evaluate to assign the appropriate label to help fans find the best books for their interests. These new labels not only bring greater consistency and focus to characters, but they also open up a wealth of new opportunities for the talent working on DC books.
Yeah. We're going to talk about more. We did Social Swap this weekend where we wanted people to kind of sound off on the Vertigo thing, because that's like a big deal.
That is a big deal.
That's a really big deal. Yeah. And I got to admit, ditching Vertigo seems kind of personal, but I get it. I understand it. You need to streamline your line.
Sure.
They said this earlier in the year that they were going to do this. But not the Vertigo thing specifically, but streamlining.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because, I think it is important that you don't muddy the waters. Comic books can be very overly complicated.
Yes.
You know, there can be some barriers to entry.
Sure.
I think imprints are important.
Yes.
But at the same time, having too many of them kind of gets away from the ability for people to just kind of walk into something,
Yes.
especially when you have like you have a Batman Damned
Yeah.
versus like a Batman Adventures. I don't
Right.
know if they still make that anymore, but
But
that's a kid's
still,
comic, you know?
yeah, exactly. It's a major difference.
Right.
And making it very apparent what's what is super helpful.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like, you know, it's like ultimately, you know, just the fact, because we'll talk more about this later, but the fact that Vertigo's gone, you know, doesn't mean that their legacy's not intact. Like
No.
it's got a hell of a legacy,
Absolutely.
to be honest. So
yeah.
like,
And the stories are still going.
yeah, exactly. Right. Some of them are like Sandman's still out and all this other stuff. So there you go.
For sure. Hey, punk. This September, it's now the law that you celebrate the most hardcore lawman of them all, Judge Dredd. September 7th, 2019, the Day of Dredd, is the explosive finale of a month of celebration, promotion, and events honoring Britain's biggest comic book export and a world icon. In 1977, Judge Dredd burst out of the pages of 2000 AD and blasted his way deep into the pop culture consciousness of an entire generation. He's been bringing the law to the mean streets of Mega City 1 ever since, immortalized in over 40 years of stories. Every now and then, it's important to take a step back from serving up justice and remember your many bone-breaking achievements. Dredd fans will be encouraged to participate by sharing their own personal memories of first encountering Dredd himself, or their favorite characters from his vast universe of stories, using the hashtag #DayOfDredd. Coinciding with the event, September 5th sees the worldwide release of Rebellion's collected edition of Judge Dredd, The Small House, by Rob Williams and Henry Flint, the critically acclaimed and lauded thriller that is already being hailed as one of the classic Judge Dredd stories. You can find out more about Dredd Day and Judge Dredd's Small House by keeping an eye on the Previews World website.
Yeah, I'm all about 2000 AD. Like I've been like my last couple of picks for the last few months have been 2000 AD books.
Yep.
I'm really starting to discover UK comics in general.
Good.
Like I mean, like I've gone down that road before, but like this is like me actually delving headfirst into it. I'm really glad they're doing this.
Yeah.
Like I want them to have more exposure here in the States. I actually had a chance to talk to the marketing person of 2000 AD back when we were at Vegas. He's really excited, and his enthusiasm got me enthused for all this.
Good.
So definitely keep an eye out for Dredd Day, but also keep an eye out for Small House.
Yeah.
It's the guy it's Rob Williams who wrote the Kingsman sequel.
Yep.
Not the movie, but the comic. But two things about that. It was better than the sequel to the movie, but also it was actually better than the first Kingsman comic.
Oh.
And like, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him tackle Dredd, because like I had never read his stuff before, and then I saw that I read Kingsman, and I was
Right.
like, this guy's really good. So check it out. It's coming out in
Cool.
September, and it's available to pre-order now.
Yeah.
So
Loyal citizens of Cobra, take heed. Our glorious commander has warned that IDW Publishing, the outlawed propagandist organization, will launch a new campaign of disinformation in September, peddling a wave of new anarchist pamphlets simply entitled G.I. Joe. Inspired by fugitives including Duke and Scarlet, writer Paul Aller and artist Chris Evenhuis give us a story both of modern warfare, where non-state actors fight vastly overpowered militaries to a perpetual standstill, and World War II, where Great Britain's SOE recruited civilians behind enemy lines. Aller has said, old school G.I. Joe fans will absolutely love it and find it true to everything G.I. Joe stands for, and new folks will be attracted to a deeply character-driven tale of hope and humanity, and about the power of resilience in an increasingly unraveling world. Look for this comic hitting shelves beginning in September, with cover variants from Chris Evenhuis, Dustin Weaver, and Eleonora Carlini. Pretty cool.
yeah, no, I can appreciate some clever marketing. Like, yeah, this whole like, the propaganda aspect of
Yeah.
it. You know, yeah, and also it's fun. We were talking earlier. I find it a little bit funny because Shield and Hydra kind of inspired G.I. Joe and Cobra, and so they're doing the Hydra thing, which
They
is kind
are. Yeah.
But it's fun. I love it. I love the the topsy-turvy world where the heroes are completely at a loss.
Right.
So yeah, it should be fun.
And finally, filmmaker J.J. Abrams is writing a Spider-Man comic. Spider-Man #1, a 5-issue limited series, will be written by Abrams and his son Henry Abrams, with interior art from Sarah Pichelli and a cover by Olivier Coipel. There's a crazy new villain named Cadaverous that we can't wait for you to meet, said J.J. Abrams. Spider-Man #1 will be available in comic shops in September and can be pre-ordered from the July previews.
Oh boy, this one, yeah. We talked about this
Touchy
off camera
subject.
earlier, yeah. The claws came out for this one. Like I saw, there are pockets of of comics dumb, especially on Twitter, that like don't get along.
Yeah.
But they were kind of unified in like coming down on this.
The salt train.
The salt train. That's exactly what it was, and it was interesting. Like I not to get too much into this because ultimately I don't think it really matters. Like I think that like I saw people upset because they were like, oh, J.J. Abrams is getting like basically the back door like to like Marvel, but at the same time I'm kind of like it's okay. Like celebrities have written comics before. It's not a big deal. I think some of the Star Wars stuff kind of factored into people's responses about that too. But like also it's this 21-year-old son. I think he's 21 or 18. Like
he's a young kid.
People were coming after the kid, and I was like, that's not cool. Don't do that. Like I get it. Like everybody has these like this ideal of how you're supposed to get into comics, but it's a kid, like just let it be. Anyway.
Oh well.
But it's interesting, and Sarah P. Kelly's a great artist,
Absolutely.
so I'm very interested in like at least what this is going to be and how Abrams is going to transition into comics. I don't think he's ever done one before, so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And he may not even be transitioning into it. Like
right.
This is even just it's a 5-issue run.
Yeah, right.
So maybe he's just doing a little something.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because people also are falsely reporting that this is a reboot of Spider-Man.
Oh.
It's not.
No.
It's not at all.
Yeah.
It's just another Spider-Man story and a long line of Spider-Man stories. Like, it's okay, guys. Like, chill out. So
More spider.
More spider. Actually, Bleeding Cool. We don't normally talk about Bleeding Cool on the show, but like they actually ran a very amusing article where they were saying that. They ran the first issue of Amazing Spider-Man #1. Not a lot of people know this, but Stan Lee was the cousin of the president of Marvel at the time when he started like pumping out all these like big Silver Age characters. And they were like, this is nepotism at play. And they were totally doing it satirically, but I was like, all right, BC, I'll give you that.
We get it.
I appreciate that. That was a nice dig at everybody. So, but comics aren't the only things at your local comic shop today, of course. We have toys, action figures, etc. Natasha's here. She's going to show you what's inside the Previews toy chest. Check it out.
Hey Previews World, Natasha here to give you a look inside the Previews toy chest. Let's find out what's at comic shops for the week of June 26th, 2019. Want to see more? Be sure to check out Talking Toys, our weekly show that spotlights new collectibles on their way to your friendly local comic shop. Just head over to previewsworld.com/talkingtoys to find out more.
Thanks, Natasha. You can check out more stuff in the toy category. Head on over to previewsworld.com/toychest. And I got to say, I wasn't prepared for the Bruce Wayne combo.
Yeah.
Those things are really realistic.
They are.
Like, those are actually really cool.
They're gorgeous.
Might just get like a plainclothes Batman figure just to own those. Like, it's Christian Bale and Ben Affleck. Now I want a Michael Keaton, actually.
That's true.
Yeah, now I want all of them. I'll even take a George Clooney.
For sure.
Not a Val Kilmer, though.
Leave Val Kilmer alone. What?
Poor
Come
Val.
on. I like Batman Forever. Everybody rags on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, thank you. Solidarity. That's what we're talking about. Get out of here, Johnny. Actually, no, stay here because
we need you.
We need you to do the show. We don't know what we'll be doing without you. So what else we got this week?
So, of course, we have the usual giveaway. Unfortunately, we do not have the figure, but it is that really cool Carnage that you saw in the video. So if you want to win that, let us know which 6 Spider-Man villains would be your Sinister 6. Hit us up on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching us. And we'll take entrance until next week and pick one of you guys to win Fancy Carnage Mans.
There you go, yeah. Fancy Carnage Man.
Fancy Carnage Mans.
And we have last week's winner, right?
Yes, we have last week's winner of the DC Essentials Wonder Woman and Cheetah figures. And our question was which Wonder Woman story you would like to see made into film. And our winner is Mason Radcliffe, who responded by saying that he'd love to see them make Hikatea. which is actually really cool. I had to go look it up.
Yeah, right.
But
That's a
it's
good
basically like a Wonder Woman versus Batman,
yep.
which is very cool answer. Here for it.
Like all the bias there in selecting that one.
I
was like, yes, I want to see that one.
That one.
Yeah.
That would be very cool.
J.G. Jones and it's Greg Rucka and like, it's just Batman meddling in Amazon affairs and Wonder Woman's like, no.
But also, kind of. Like,
right, yeah. Actually, yeah, because I think around that time they're kind of like an item too. So it's kind of interesting. I think that's around the same time, yeah.
But she's also torn between like her Amazonian stuff and then, like justice in general.
Right, exactly. So, like, it's got a great cover with her boot on Batman's head. So on that note, speaking of DC characters, Superman Year One came out last week, and here's a little trailer for it, so you can get caught up on what exactly the book is about. A lot of people have been talking about it, but here it is in the words of Superman Year One. Check it out. So I like when they initially announced Superman Year One, look, fanboy skepticism is a real thing. Like I'm guilty of it. Like, everybody's guilty of it.
That's
Like
true.
Fangirl skepticism is a real thing too. I was kind of like, really? Are they gonna how are they gonna retell Superman story? It's just gonna be the same thing all over again, right? Like maybe a little bit grittier. But it turns out that Frank Miller's going into new territory with this. And we talked a little bit about the military aspect about it. I don't want to give away too much, but it is a new direction and it's got people kind of uncomfortable, which I think is kind of interesting, which makes me want to read it personally, because so definitely check that out. It's in stores right now. It's from the DC Black Label. But speaking of DC again, we did a social swamp last week or over the weekend, and a lot of people were in their feelings, understandably, about the Vertigo comics cancellation, and we asked you guys, instead of focusing on the loss of Vertigo, let's talk about just Vertigo itself. So we asked you guys, what was your favorite Vertigo story? And you answered. So here we go, social swamp time.
So yeah, we wanted to focus on the positive and what you guys got out of Vertigo over the years, and here's some great responses from y'all. Jedi Hobbit 99 said that Lucifer is their favorite, took an amazing concept from Sandman and ran with it. Great take in an amazing world of Judeo-Christian mythology. Blew my mind. The Grey Goat said, Transmetropolitan by Warren Ellis and Derek Robertson was my all-time fave. It was a groundbreaking game changer and eerily prophetic of things to come that would occur in the real world, as well as being ahead of its time. Brandon Dean likes Hellblazer. It gave us one of the greatest comic characters ever created, John Bloody Constantine. Fair enough.
Fair enough, yeah, very fair.
Stephen Santerre said, Death, the High Cost of Living. Such a great read. That's it. Nothing more needs to be said. Beautiful words combined with beautiful art. Also very true.
Also very true, yeah.
Steve Westerman, I'm tempted to say Preacher, but I won't. Fables is superior overall. It was so imaginative, it was unreal. An amazing series. That is absolutely my personal favorite.
Yeah, Fables.
Zachary Hedden said, my very first comic ever was Black Orchid. My life was very rough at the time, so reading something beautiful and ethereal gave me the escape my soul needed. Since then, I have exclusively collected Vertigo. I was so happy they launched Sandman Universe on my birthday. I feel for you, Zachary.
Right,
oh my gosh, the fact that this is his collector stuff. This is his items.
Yeah, right.
And they're going away.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have a ton of favorite Vertigo stories. I have always joked that I'm a Marvel fan and a Vertigo fan. Primarily. Once you roll in Superman and Batman and all this other stuff, but Vertigo stuff always got a first look from me.
Yeah.
And I was actually fortunate enough to interview 3 of actually 4 or 5 of the main Vertigo editors at different points in time. They're all currently on other projects right now, of course, and they've been so for a couple of years. Right. But it's just interesting to kind of talk to them and understand their methodology in terms of like how they select titles and like what they were trying to accomplish at the time and bring stuff in.
Yeah.
And it's just really fascinating.
Yeah.
And like, the legacy of Vertigo is super intact.
Absolutely.
And I know that you're a big Sandman fan. Like I know there's some other stuff like Neil Gaiman that you've, but I mean literally like Neil Gaiman's career was springboarded by being attached to Vertigo.
Yep.
And like I understand Sandman was technically pre-Vertigo,
right?
But like at the same time, once it got rolling, it got rolled into Vertigo, and like it just took off.
Yep.
So, it just, it's unfortunate, but like we said before, like everything has to end. And actually, Vertigo Comics taught me that because like you don't get that from superhero comics.
That's true. Yeah, they just sort of keep going.
They just keep going and going. Exactly.
But yeah.
But Vertigo always told me like there's a final story that we're getting to, and you got to like just roll with the journey. But we will end eventually, and you have to look forward to that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
but also. I'm sorry, was there anything else you want to say?
Very solid.
Yeah, very solid. But also, this gave me an opportunity to interview a segment that we've been talking about for a while, but I just didn't quite know how to fit it into the show, what we're going to call actionable. And the idea here is that, like, we gave you guys an opportunity to do the social swamp thing. You gave us a reaction, but now on top of your reaction, we're going to give you an opportunity to take action.
Yes.
This is going to be a call to action. So here we go, actionable. So I bet you didn't know that Quentin Tarantino made a sequel to Django. He did it in comics. He co-wrote it, and it's unbelievably authentic. It reads like a Tarantino movie, but the best part is it's a team-up comic and crossover, and it's called Django Zorro. And for my money, it is the best film-to-comic tie-in ever produced. Written by Matt Wagner with Tarantino, Django Zorro is the Django sequel too ambitious for the big screen. The 6-part comic series brings the legendary Don Diego de la Vega face-to-face with Jamie Foxx's gunslinging Freeman. At first, both men seem to be seeking to settle with one another, but by the time Django discovers he is working with the masked vigilante Zorro, it is too late for him to pack it up and go home. Next thing you know, both men are striking out into the night on a dangerous quest to free the indigenous people of Arizona from an archduke claiming rights to the land. Co-writer Matt Wagner and artist Esteve Poles set Django on a path to become a mythological figure by pairing him with such a classic character. Zorro informs Django that he can become the scourge that strikes down outlaws everywhere. Already quick on the draw, the man with the silent D turns out to be more than ready for vigilante life. Part history lesson, part Old West yarn, and 100% cooler than cool, Django Zorro is the closest you'll come to seeing a Quentin Tarantino film this summer without going to the theater. If you're itching for more Quentin Tarantino-esque action after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then look no further than your local comic shop. And it just so happens that I actually have it in the store, in the studio here.
Yes.
Yeah, like I told you earlier, like I'll admit, I read this digitally first, but I loved it so much that I actually bought the physical version of it. And it is still available by Diamond. So you're like, if your local comic shop doesn't have it on the shelf, just happen to reorder it.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool hardcover.
That seems awesome.
Yeah, it's just a fun idea.
I actually still have not seen Django.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
But I love Zorro.
Right, exactly.
Right? So how can you not want to put both of them together?
And the other cool thing about this actually is that like the story is about older Zorro.
Oh,
so
nice.
yeah, so he's
I like
not
that.
like, the spring chicken. Like he's like an older Zorro, which in my mind is like, God, if they made this into a movie,
that would be so good.
Jamie Foxx and Antonio Banderas now. That would be awesome. Right. So, and it's like I said, it's from Vertigo. Like it's a team up between Vertigo and Dynamite, because Dynamite held the rights to Zorro at the time, and Vertigo held the rights to producing a Django adaptation at the time. So it's probably one of the best crossovers I've ever read. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Cool.
So there you go. That was our actionable for this week, and I won't do this all the time. It'll be a semi-regular thing, but when given the opportunity to kind of drive you guys to the comic shop and suggest something to you, there it is.
For sure.
Look forward to it.
Absolutely.
So that's almost it for us this week. What else do we have?
We have Comic Shop Shoutout. Of course, if you guys want to have your favorite local comic shop featured on the show, hit us up on social media wherever you can find us. Use the hashtag #SupportYourLCS. Let us know what your favorite local comic shop is, and you could be featured. This week, we're taking a look at JC's Comics and More in Toledo, Ohio, and that was sent in by Randy Tosca.
Cool. And that's it for this week on Previews World Weekly. Be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure you're following us and continue commenting. We always love what you guys have to say. I've been Troy Jeffrey Allen.
And I'm Thea, and we'll see you at the spinner rack.
Thanks Previews World Weekly. If you like the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes.